So you're wanting to create a dark short film, not necessarily in terms of the story that you tell, but more the cinematography. It's literally a dark image that you're wanting to create. But the problem is every time you take the lights out of the scene and hit record, you end up with an image that is mostly black, but also incredibly noisy. How do you solve these problems without flooding the scene with light and completely ruining the atmosphere or mood you're trying to create? Let's take a look at a few tips.
Too bright.
Movies and TV shows have been getting a lot darker over the last couple of years, and this is caused by several things, including the lighting on set, the set decoration and costumes, and the color grading and post-production they go through after everything has been shot. So how do you match this look at home? The first thing is to use soft lighting. There are a couple different ways to get soft lighting. The first is to use a softbox, which is the kind of light that we have here. It comes with a diffuser built in to spread the lighting and make it less harsh. You can also bounce the light, so if you don't have a diffuser, you can point the light away from your actors and bounce it using either a white wall or a reflector, or basically anything white. That's how the light is reflected. Moving the light farther away from your actor also diffuses it.
Oh my god.
It's kind of a given that you should avoid overexposing any part of your shot, but it's also important when you're lighting for darkness that you don't have any areas which are much brighter than the rest of your footage, even if they're not technically overexposed. These areas are going to be harder to bring down to match everything else when you're actually color grading the shot. What you're trying to avoid is the harsh shadows on your actor's face or the set that you're shooting. This is because even if you color grade the shot later, your eye will be able to tell that there are light and dark areas because of those harsh lines. Speaking of the set, it is important that your art direction helps the idea that your footage is going to end up dark. You can't really have your actors wearing neon and bright colors and then expect the footage to look good when you turn down all the colors and brightness. Be careful though, that doesn't mean you should put all of your actors in black clothing because the details will quickly be lost. An example of this is Severus Snape from the Harry Potter films. Even though his costume appears black in the final shots, you can see from behind the scenes photos and videos that it's actually a mix of dark blues and dark greens. This is because the color grade plays a huge part in the final look of your film.
What is the price for your blind eye?
The color grade is what happens after you've shot your footage and are now bringing it into your editor of choice. Of course, we're going to go with HitFilm, so these tips will cater to that software. When it comes to the color grade, it's not as simple as just turning the exposure down all of the way. An important thing you have to do is respect the highlights and the bright areas of your footage. If you're using HitFilm Pro, I would highly recommend learning how to use the scopes panel if you don't know already. If you're an Express and want scopes, take a look at the Color Scopes pack. You can start by lowering the exposure, but then tweak the other values like the shadows or the black areas so that you don't lose detail when everything goes down. It can be useful to use the color balance effect, which affects the shadows, midtones, and highlights separately if you need to adjust specific areas of your footage. Also remember that when things get dark, they tend to lose color, so be sure to bring that saturation down the darker you go. I don't think Tom has fully recovered from the shoot earlier today. I'm a bit worried about him. Tom? Remember that if you put your effects on grade layers, you can mask them out so that they only affect specific areas of your footage. So if you've lowered the brightness of the entire shot and are liking the way it looks, but you want your actor's face to be just a bit brighter, you can do that with a mask. Check out the bleach bypass effect as well. This is great for adding a sort of silvery look to your footage. Be careful though, because it does crush the shadows quite a bit. If you're an Express, you can achieve this with a hue, saturation, and lightness effect on a grade layer. Remove all of the saturation and then set the blend of the grade to either soft light or overlay. Vignettes are also a good way to darken the edges of your footage and draw focus to an area that you want. But they can be used incorrectly because what they're doing is just overlaying black onto your footage. If you have a highlight in your footage, like a window or a lamp, and you add a vignette on top of that, it's going to dull the footage down to a dark gray, which isn't very appealing. So to get around that, what we're going to do is first create a white plane, add the vignette effect, invert it with the effect of the same name, add a demult effect, which will remove all of the black, invert it again, and then set the blend of the layer to soft light or overlay. You can see that it's respecting and leaving those highlights in the shot, but darkening the midtones and shadows like a vignette should. Another way to do this is to just mask out a black plane, invert the mask, and feather, but you won't have any of the controls that the vignette effect offers. Hopefully you guys found these tips useful. Feel free to leave any questions you have or tips of your own down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.